Bob Kull is the Kelly Outstanding Teaching Award winner for 2013. And this award recognizes a core faculty or associate faculty member who is deemed to be representative of outstanding teachers at Royal Roads. He's taught the Systems Thinking course in the MEEK program for the last 7 years, and this year he's redesigning and teaching the Worldviews and Ethics course. At age 40, Bob began undergraduate study in psychology and biology at McGill University. And then he earned his PhD in interdisciplinary studies from UBC for his research on the physical, emotional, psychological, and spiritual effects of deep wilderness solitude. For his fieldwork, he lived alone for a year in southern Chile's Patagonian wilderness. His book about the experience is available for purchase at the back of the room after this workshop, and he continues to spend a month alone in the wilderness each year. Bob.
Hello, hello. Is it working? Okay. Hey guys, it's good to see you. I'm a little nervous being up here actually. After what Steve just said, I may be out of work by the time I'm done talking here. Yeah, I thought that was pretty good. Because I have some difficulty with this notion of professional and applied because it has a taint of commercialism to me. That the only valuable experience is that we've gotten in the workplace or that's related to the workplace. And so happily, Deanne expanded the context to include lived experience. And that's what really matters to me, that sense of what is important. I think this is also really important in what we're teaching and the kinds of exercise. When we're talking about applied exercises, for me, looking inward is a directly and profoundly applied exercise. Staring at a wall with a quiet mind is a profound applied exercise because it has an influence on the quality of our living. So I think we really need to expand what we think of as applied exercises. As a teacher, I have a kind of a feeling like I'm a drug dealer, right? When I go into solitude, sometimes in the city, but especially in solitude, there are moments of just waking up. This feeling that the world has changed. It's come alive, and I've come alive in it, and my relationship with the world has changed. And those moments are miraculous for me. And I think that's what I need to be sharing and attempting to catalyze in students. The problem is I don't know how to do it. I haven't figured out how to do that, except to try to be as authentically present as I can be in my engagements with students, to really be there and invite students to be there too. So I'm really glad that I've seen what Connie said, because I have no idea what I'm doing in the course. And so it's nice to know, oh, that's what I was doing all this time, okay. Not only is the inner experience of this waking up kind of addictive, but seeing that happen in students' eyes is also addictive. So that's, in that sense, it's kind of like, a drug. I started learning to teach under the water as a scuba instructor in the Caribbean. And feedback is always important in teaching. It's just a vital part, but under the water, it's all about body language. You're reading people's body language. Are they about to explode in terror? What's going on here? Teaching online is all about words. And so a huge part of learning to teach online is reading between the lines. What's going on behind the words that students are writing? And to encourage students to write in such a way that what's going on behind the words becomes more transparent, it comes out. And also myself as the teacher to learn to write in that way so that I'm more present in my words. The other thing scuba diving was great at, there was a lot on the line. You have to have skin in the game when you're teaching diving and when you're learning to dive. If you're a learner and you don't get it, your life's on the line. You're dead. As the instructor, my reputation was on the line. The resorts I taught in had this, it wasn't a hard rule, but it was a pretty strong recommendation that I keep my survival rate above 90%. And also, if people don't survive, you don't get repeat business. They don't come back. right? So it's important to have skin in the game, and I try to bring that attitude to teaching in the intellectual domain as well, to have actual be there, that it matters. This isn't just kind of something that's going on. So there's the skills of diving. You got to learn how to do the skills and stuff. But the skills aren't the end. The skills are simply the window through which you explore the wonder of the underwater world. And the same thing in teaching. Learning outcomes, they're not an end. They can be a useful guidepost. But if we get stuck there, teaching to learning outcomes, learning to learning outcomes, we're lost. If we've lost that sense of we're after wonder, that's what we're up to, then we've lost it all. Humor is also kind of important. Anytime we're going into the unknown, which teaching always involves, studying always involves, there's always an element of fear involved. So when I was teaching diving, people hadn't been in the ocean before, and they were afraid. God, what's under there going to get me? And so I spent a significant amount of time persuading them that there was nothing under there that was going to get them. Then once they'd paid, and they had their gear, we were on the beach, I'm giving them the last briefing. And I say, look at you guys, I've told you it's not dangerous under there, but if we do see a shark, oh God, they're just like this, right? They're just vibrating. So if we see a shark, it's important that you know how to behave. You don't want to freak out and splash around, because that'll make the shark nervous, and we do not want a nervous shark around us. What you do is very calmly form a circle, facing outward. Hold hands. And that's important because we don't want any gaps in the circle. Because if there's a gap in the circle, this shark can get inside the circle. And we definitely don't want the shark inside the circle, because I'm going to be inside the circle. And I'm terrified of sharks. In that moment of humor, their anxiety just dissolved. And so I think humor in teaching is a really important piece of what we're up to. Some years ago, I was driving my car through California, and I stopped in this really derelict truck stop to have a cup of 50-cent coffee, and it tasted like that. The waitress was a bleached blonde, about 50 years old, and she called me honey. What really impressed me is they had a whole wall of baseball caps for sale, a display of all different colors. Beautiful. But the message on the front of each baseball cap was the same, and it said, "Sounds like bullshit to me." I didn't buy one of those hats. But when I started my undergraduate studies at age 40 and on into grad school, I often wish I had, because it would have cut through a lot of verbiage sometimes just to put the hat on. Now as a teacher, I try to keep that metaphorical hat in my back pocket. When I'm reading, especially when I'm speaking, when I'm writing, that I'm referring to it. Is what I'm saying and writing, is it real? Is it authentic? Does it make sense to me in the context of my own lived experience? Or is it just kind of empty words, theoretical abstractions? And that's kind of my touchstone. So having Connie in the class, Connie slipped over to the dark side. She's a scientist. And she kept me in line because I could tell she always had her own metaphorical hat on the ready. Especially when we got into things like multiverses and plural realities. She's saying, no, there's an objective reality, man. That's what we study in science. And I'm going, yeah, I know there's an objective reality, but I also know that there's not really. And Connie is going, right? She had a very open mind, but she wasn't willing to swallow anything without chewing it very thoroughly. And so that was really useful. The other thing that I did in class that I thought was really neat, one year there was a confusion about an assignment. Because one of the things I've learned in teaching online, you have to write like a lawyer sometimes, especially in terms of the instructions you give for assignments. And so there was some ambiguity that I hadn't been aware of. And one team did the assignment somewhat differently in their formatting, and they had an advantage because they could use more words. And with my suspicious mind, I immediately called them on it and challenged them on it and said, hey, you guys, you've played the system here. They immediately pushed back and told me no uncertain terms. No, we didn't. We did it with good intention. Now I'm left with a dilemma. All the other teams did it the way I asked, that I thought I'd asked, and they had a disadvantage because this one team had used more words. And so if I graded this team on the same standard, they had an advantage. But if I asked them to do it again, they had done it in good faith, they were at a disadvantage. What to do? And it brought up all my stuff. How do you judge in a situation that seems like zero-sum, there's a winner and a loser? And I'm there, the authoritative teacher, going, what should I do? What should I do? And I had a brilliant idea. I'll ask the students. So I put it out there on instructor updates. I said, hey, you guys, this is the situation. What should we do? And I insisted that everybody gave feedback, and it came out nobody gave a shit. They didn't care, right? Nobody cared. And what was brilliant is by expanding the context that way, everybody was winning because they were invited to participate, to be involved. And the little situation, winners and losers, lost its significance. And so I think that it's really useful ever since. I've tried to find some issue within the class to use as a teaching moment to make the whole process as circular as possible. My time's up. I got to go. Thank you.